Welcome back to the May 2022 Brimfield Flea Market in Brimfield, Massachusetts. We've just barely scratched the surface of all the amazing things there are to see here, so let's keep looking. If you've ever been to Brimfield before, you've probably passed by this vendor here selling the water fountains. And I don't know, am I the only one that just wants to play in the water? This vendor here seems to come out pretty much every year as far as I can tell, and he's always got these great animal sculptures made out of wood. Personally, I would never even bother asking how much they cost because I'm sure they're way more than I can afford, but they are pretty amazing. I seem to remember seeing more last year, so he's probably sold quite a few of them. I haven't really been into wrestling since the 80s, but I'm sure there's a lot of wrestling fans out there that would love to have this hanging on their wall. When I was a kid, I always wanted a big remote control boat like that, but of course they were always way too expensive. And these look like they're from the same guy that we saw earlier with the other wooden animals. I could be wrong, but they look very similar. I love booths like these where it's just stuff scattered on tables in no particular order. Just looking through it all, just trying to find the stuff is a lot of fun for me. Is there anything you see that you would have picked up that I missed? This box of old video games really interested me. Got some old Odyssey 2 games here, Commodore 64 games, and some other systems I didn't recognize. Rampage is a great game if you've never played it, but I'm sure most of you that grew up in the 80s have played that. I was kind of interested in these old candy or cookie jars here until I saw the price, $2,200. This vendor had a great selection of old video games if you're into that. He had Game Boy cartridges here, NES games. But the thing that surprised me was these Famicom games. These are Japanese versions of the NES, basically. And I rarely see them, ever. I mean, I don't go to a lot of game conventions or anything, but as far as at flea markets, you almost never see Famicom games. He's got more, and we got some Sega Genesis games here, which is my all-time favorite system. Usually if I'm going to pick up a game, I like it to be complete in box, so it would have the box, the game, and the manual. They had a good selection of games here, and the prices didn't seem that bad, but there weren't any titles in here that really interested me. This was the only one that kind of did LHX Attack Chopper, except it didn't have the manual. These gray cartridges here in the middle are Super Famicom games, and those also are very rare in my experience at flea markets. I find these interesting, where they're basically like creatures, animals, other things made out of basically old scrap metal, tools, utensils, you name it. Pretty creative. That old radio there is pretty cool. And that's a lot of old license plates. Where does one find that many license plates? And this, the 3D program pad, I had that exact gamepad back in the mid to late 90s. Mine came in a different package, but that's the exact controller I had. I kind of wish I had picked that up, because I used that thing to death until I completely wore out the buttons on it. It just wouldn't work anymore. These Star Wars sets here drew my eye, especially the one on the right there, the Bespin Gantry playset. I actually bought that exact set back in the 80s at, I think, Kmart with my grandmother, so that is super nostalgic to me. I just wish it were in better condition. This vendor had a nice selection of old Nintendo DS games here. Some of these can actually be worth a decent amount of money, like 20 or 30 bucks or more, which is a good amount for a fairly recent video game system. Got an old NES there in the bag there with some NES games. The Game Genie, who remembers that? I remember seeing the commercial for that, but I never actually used one. I've always wanted to get one of these Mickey Mouse phones, but it's hard to find them at a good price. Just so many amazing toys and games in this booth here. Yeah, and there's that Mickey Mouse head I was talking about before. There's two of them up there. The Mickey Mouse piggy banks. More road signs, and again, I just wonder where somebody finds an old road sign like that. A lot of these toys are just a little bit too new for me. I'm interested in, maybe like 1980s and earlier. These look mostly like 90s and 2000 toys to me. And then the Funko Pops there, of course, are modern. That's a pretty impressive Pez collection there. I'm not sure if any of those individual Pez's are particularly rare or valuable, but I think the guy was asking a couple $100 on that. I forget the exact price. I've been looking out for Viewmasters recently. I'm not sure why. I just suddenly got on a Viewmaster kick. Got a G.I. Joe card game here. He's asking $65 for it. I just don't know enough about it to know if that price is good or not. These Big Little books are pretty interesting. I've shown them before. They're basically like half book, half comic book, and the prices on them were pretty good. I think he had them like $5 to $10 or so, in that range. That's pure nightmare fuel right there. Who remembers Jarts or lawn darts? I think these got banned eventually because kids were impaling themselves with them. I was interested in these model planes here, but he was asking $150, and that's just more than I was willing to pay. And I don't know how I would get that home without breaking the propellers, honestly. If you're looking to build your own haunted mansion, I think these lawn ornaments here would fit in quite nicely. I think this red thing here is an old popcorn maker. And now that gas sign would fit in my trunk, pretty sure. And this bike is pretty cool. This is an old Niagara bicycle. I'm not sure on the year. I'm guessing 30s, 40s, 50s. Anybody need a hand? These chairs made out of horns caught my eye. They don't look very comfortable though. These would look great in an Old West version of Game of Thrones.
Looks like a carousel horse, but the pole's in the wrong spot. I think the pole would be up front,
Yeah.
so you could hold on to it.
Well, you got two. You definitely should have two riders here. But what's this guy gonna?
I don't know.
Hang on.
These old signs here are great. The Zenith radio and television sign, and another Zenith Chromacolor sign. These are probably from a old repair shop from maybe the 50s or 60s, I would guess. This RCA color track display here is pretty cool. I think color track started in the 70s and went through the 90s, but just based on the appearance of this one, I'd say this is most likely early to mid 70s.
It's a very 70s bike.
Oh yes.
The glitter seat.
Banana seat, is that
Yep.
what it's called?
With the glitter in it.
Yeah, nice.
74-ish, I'm thinking.
Well, originally it was 95.
No, I mean year.
Oh, the year? Yeah, probably 70s, yeah.
Early 70s, I would think.
It's a lemon peeler.
Yep.
All right.
Plastic. Too new. This wood sculpture here is pretty awesome. This looks like a piece of driftwood that's made to look like a crocodile or a dragon. Here's a nice old ship's half model. It looks like it's been modified though. They've drilled holes in it, and I don't think there were holes there originally. This red go-kart here would look awesome if it got restored. Not sure if that's fiberglass or plastic. This old tape recorder is pretty cool. It looks almost brand new. It still has the original sticker on it and everything, and the manual. I remember using one of these, again, back in the 80s at my grandmother's house. She had one, and it was just fun to record stuff on it. And then I found a whole bunch of Viewmaster reels here. I didn't end up buying these, though, as the lady was asking a little bit more than I was willing to pay. But it's always fun to see these, especially these old ones from, I think they're 40s or 50s, I'm guessing. This old Mac computer here grabbed my attention from about 100 feet away, and the Super Nintendo there. I always love seeing these old computers. It's hit or miss, though. You can either find them really cheap or really expensive. Sadly, this one was missing the keyboard and mouse. Then out back here, I saw this old Teddy Ruxpin and Grubby toy with a lot of the original books and tapes and outfits. But I think she was only selling the whole set together for $200, which is actually not a bad price, assuming that they actually work.
Looks like you put a light bulb in his hand.
You don't see old jails for sale too often. That's pretty cool. Wonder if it comes with the prisoner. These amethyst geodes here are pretty nice. The only thing I found interesting is they say on them made in Brazil, and you wouldn't think something natural would be made in Brazil, but I looked online and apparently they can artificially create a lot of these geodes nowadays, so I honestly don't know if these are natural or man-made. This vendor here has a lot of really awesome old military and aviation stuff, and also an old coin-op Flintstones ride. That's pretty awesome. Any idea how old that is? I'm thinking 80s.
I think this was one of those things you'd have at the mall, you know, for the kids to ride.
Oh, right.
I would guess.
And these old instrument clusters here are pretty amazing. Not sure what type of airplanes they're from. Now this giant gun here, I believe this was a training aid to show you how the gun works. I'm not sure if this is an official product or something somebody just made in their spare time, but I would assume it's for educational purposes. I love this dog cookie jar here. It looks like a pug maybe, or maybe a bulldog. These posters here, I believe, are all blacklight posters. So I'm sure if you turned on a blacklight, they would all glow. I honestly don't know if these are originals or reproductions. I'm guessing reproductions just because there's so many of them and there's a few duplicates. But that's just a total guess.
Perfectly scalpel cheap.
Yeah, no, I can.
Come in, take a look. A lot of unique items.
Earlier, I didn't see it, but hey, it is what it is. It wasn't meant to be.
We'll get you something else.
Here's a nice selection of old lunch boxes. They're all pretty beat up though. Most of them seem to be. I usually don't see very many lunch boxes in good condition at flea markets. Especially the metal ones. The metal ones always have dents, and a lot of times they're missing the thermos. Ah, the Easy Bake Oven. Who knew that food cooked with a light bulb could actually taste good? I wasn't sure what this bus was here at first. I was thinking it was maybe a coin-op ride from a mall or something, but there's nowhere for anybody to sit. I did some digging, and it's actually called Buster the School Bus Robot, and apparently it teaches kids at school bus safety. Who knew? Here's some nice geodes. And something to look out for. I did some research online. Apparently a lot of the brighter colored geodes, like these ones here that are purple or pink, are actually dyed. So that black on the outside is actually ink of some sort or dye. And they just don't look like that in nature. So just be on the lookout. You know, if you're looking at a really bright geode, there's a good possibility it's not natural. Or at least it's not naturally colored. I actually didn't know that when I was looking at these, so I'm kind of glad I didn't buy one, because I would have been disappointed if I got home and found out it had been altered. Get your Jollies here. I think this is probably an old Jolly Ranchers store display. Maybe?
I don't know. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I guess you'd put the coin in here and it goes ding, 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 ding.
These posters here are almost as awesomely bad as the Masters of the Universe versus Transformers painting, but not quite. They're all a little bit mixed up. You have 300, and then it says Sparta Curse, Konar the Barbarian Commando, and then just Chuck Norris. Very confusing. So here's a fun fact. Slot machines are legal to buy and own in Massachusetts if they're over 30 years old. However, in Connecticut, which is where I live, they're illegal to own or sell. So if you're buying a slot machine at the Brimfield Flea Market, don't take it back to Connecticut. When did old TVs like that become so expensive? I think he was asking somewhere near $100 for those TVs.
We have this and somebody took it, or?
And these have to be Ronald McDonald's shoes, right?
We only got down to Miami in fall.
Another slot machine that you don't want to take to Connecticut. Here's another nice collection of rocks and geodes. I'm interested in the natural rocks and geodes, not so much the like the crystals and the New Age type stuff. And now that I look at those geodes, I'm wondering if those are naturally colored. They definitely look dyed, the purple ones there. Some creepy elves. Took me a minute to figure out what SWP meant.
Sherwin-Williams
That's
paint.
right, sure name.
It's got to be it, right?
I like this green telephone here. I haven't seen that color before, especially with the black faceplate, but I noticed one of the receiver caps has been replaced, and I think it would be pretty hard to find another green one that matched. It's a lot of Snoopies. This vendor on the left here is here pretty much every year, and he's always got a great selection of old magazines and comic books in the back. This orange telephone here really caught my eye. I've never seen that color before, but the price on it, $115, just seemed a little bit high to me. These skeleton chairs here are awesome. I have no idea where they're from, though. I don't know if they're from a carnival or a Halloween store. I have no idea. If anybody knows where these are from, let me know. All right, there you have it. That's the end of part 2 for the May 2022 Brimfield Flea Market. I'm going to be back with 2 more parts, so stay tuned. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.